run you through how I like to rig my lures for heavy tackle fishing. Over the years, I've been very, very lucky to fish with a bunch of really, really good lure fishermen. They all have different ways that they rig their lures and that, but they all have one thing in common, and that's a sharp hook. So the first thing is make sure your hooks are nice and sharp. Now, the second thing is the guys that I've fished with that are very, very technical and very clinical about how their lures are rigged are normally the most consistent fishermen that I've fished with. So with that being said, I'm all about consistency. I'm not so much worried about the guy that catches one big one here and there. I'm always paying attention to the guy that's consistent. The guy that's consistently putting flags up at the end of the day, because I feel like he'll get a big fish eventually anyway. So I'm all about consistency, and those guys that I've seen are very, very technical about how their lures are rigged and very pedantic about how they run and that. So when I rig a lure, I always rig it for performance first. I have a sharp hook in the lure anyway, so I feel I got a very good chance, but I always rig my lures for performance first, because I feel like if I've got my lures performing right, I'm going to get more bites and give myself more chances of putting sharp hooks into fish. So that's how I look at rigging the lure first. So the key component is a nice sharp hook. You can do that with these little diamond files. Here's a really good thing to have. So grab yourself a good file and learn how to sharpen a hook well. And make sure you check it every morning before you go out. It's a really good habit. It'll get you checking the whole rig, all the lures, everything. You'll get start to get consistent, like I mentioned before, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So I'm going to break my lures down into two groups. So the first group I'm going to talk about is an angled face lure. And how I rig that, I always rig that with a double hook rig, 180-degree hook rig. The reason for that is I always treat these kind of lures like a boat. If you don't have the rudder and the keel of the boat straight, it will spin or it will turn. It's exactly the same thing as what will happen in the lure. So I like to make sure that that front hook is up and the back hook is down, just like that there. Reason for that is once it goes off the side like that, the lure will naturally want to spin, and you'll watch it go through the water and it'll go like that. And quite often you'll see at the end of the day you'll have a spun up line. Well, that's why your lures is because your lure's spinning. Okay, so this rig here will give you the chance of getting that lure swimming to its absolute optimum. The key to the double hook rig like this is to have the hooks not too far apart. I like to have them about a hook length apart and inside the skirt. Okay, if you have them too far apart, they'll start to work against each other and the lure will want to naturally spin, like I mentioned before. So that rig there is what I use in my double hook rigs. Now, the second group of lures I'm going to talk about is a cup face, bullet face, or flat face lure. The other thing I will say is this rig that I'm going to talk about, if I could only pick one rig, this would be the rig I would pick. I'd still use this in my angled face lure. The reason I like the double hook rig in the angled face lure is because it simply makes it run a little bit better. Okay, runs to its absolute optimum with that double hook rig in it. With the single hook rig that I mentioned here, it will still run well and you'll still catch fish. The only thing I say is a bad double hook rig is really bad. So that's why I say I would pick the single hook rig as my one go-to hook rig, because you can use it in any lure and you can't really make a bad single hook rig. But you can make a good single hook rig. So I'll show you this single hook rig I use. I like to use a swinging single hook rig right in the back of the skirt as far as possible, so that the eye of the hook is just inside the skirt. You'll see that it's made up of a piece of wire there. It's loose. Now, the reason why it's loose like that is I used to have that heat shrink, I used to have that covered up, totally stiff. Wire still be over that joint there was totally stiff. There's a number of reasons why I changed that. The first of all is, as soon as I started using bigger hooks like 11s, 12s, heavy hooks with this rig and that stiff, what would happen is I'd shake that hook off. I had a number of times that I'd stick it out, and by lunchtime the hook was gone when I brought it in to check it. So you can lose a hook very quickly. So when you go to check it, it's going to break right inside the crimp here, just on the end of the crimp or on that crimp there. So I stopped making it stiff and I made it loose like that, and that eliminated the amount of hooks that would shake off. You must check this if you use this piece of wire in there, otherwise you will start losing some hooks. So you must check that every day, okay? Now, the other reason I like it loose as well is you'll notice that I like to use a closed gate hook. Now, that closed gate hook is naturally going to want to pull itself in when it's loose like that. So it's going to give you the best chance of holding on the bill if the fish is not hooked, and it's going to give you the best chance of actually pulling in if the tip of the hook only just touches. So it's always going to naturally want to pull in. So that's the other advantage of using that that bit there, not stiff, free swinging like that. The other thing is too, it allows the movement in the lure as much as possible. Now, when I go, now the other reason I have the hook so far back in the skirt is I'm actually trying to hook the fish from outside in, okay? So when the fish grabs the lure, hopefully the hook is on the outside of the fish. As it swims away and we come tight on it, that hook is buried somewhere on the outside of the face. The optimum place is inside just by the nostril, and what will happen is that hook will go through into the side of the fish's face, and the eye of the hook is hard up against the roof of the mouth. When it's like this, it's very, very difficult to get out. And you'll notice when you go to get the hook out, you won't be able to lever it up because it'll hit the roof of the mouth of the fish. You'll actually have to pull that hook directly straight out. And when it's like that, when we're fishing, we never usually ever pull the hook straight out like that. So it's a very, very good place to hook a fish. So those are the two rigs that I like to use. As I say, the key component is a sharp hook. So hopefully these little tips on how to rig my lures and that help you catch an extra couple of fish.